Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're having a wonderful night tonight. We are joined with Steve Troy of Troy Industries and Greg, the social media manager, as well.
That's
How's
me.
your guys' night going so far?
Going good.
Good.
Good, good. Happy to have you here. Well, I suppose a little bit of background is in order. So earlier, last week before last, not too long ago, we did a video or a little clip on you guys winning a contract for
Yep.
a foreign entity with one of your new T1 rifles. We did a little clip, didn't think much about it because honestly, uh, most people my age who are sort of later into the gun sphere don't really think about Troy all that much. There's kind of like a lot of online internet baggage that goes along with that name. Like even me, who's never really looked into you guys before for really anything, recognizes the drama around it and some of the misinformation that's out there. So you guys reached out. We had a phone call. We wanted to clarify a few things and come on and do it live, as the kids say. So, but before we get into all of that, if you guys could kind of go through your backgrounds a little bit, do a bit of an introduction for people who aren't as familiar with you, and then we're just gonna, I guess, start from the top and talk about Ruby Ridge again. So that'll be fun.
Sure. Greg, why don't you start?
Yeah, so I'm the social media guy. I came on board about a year ago, right after I got medically retired out of the Army. Started as customer service, kind of working my way through. Been winging it, and then kind of moved into social media. And yeah, that's kind of my backstory from being here about a year now.
Like, yeah,
So me, I've been here 23 years.
right.
So I started the company in 2003. I'd worked in industry as a consultant for a while. I was a full-time state trooper. I was in the Air Force Reserve and Security Forces, and I got it going in the basement, moved it to an office, then got our first space, was about 3,500 square feet, then made that 7,000, then bought 55,000 square feet. And then 5 years ago, we moved to Tennessee, and it's been fantastic. We're right outside of Fort Campbell. About 80% of our workforce is military or military spouse, and we've got a great culture, a great group down here.
Mhm. So you started in the company in 2003. You've been the founder, the owner, the operator, part and parcel with basically every aspect of the company.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, a couple before we get into that, actually, I have a couple little kind of funny questions. Now, these are chat oriented questions, all right? And don't if these are kind of trick questions. So if you fail them, don't worry. We had Delta Force operators fail the questions as well, so don't feel bad. But the first question, the most important question, is how would you feel if you didn't eat breakfast this morning?
I tend to go more for lunch, so I think I'd be okay with it.
Okay, you would be okay with it. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fair
I do
enough.
a
Fair
little
enough.
bit of intermittent fasting here and there, so breakfast isn't as important to me.
Gotcha. Greg?
I would be really hungry.
Yep. Yeah. That's kind of the generic answer, but you would be fine with it as also appropriate. So I count that as a pass. Now, here's another trick question for you. Who's the second best rifle manufacturer?
Ooh. There's so many good rifle manufacturers.
Palmetto State. No, I'm just kidding.
Whoa, unbelievable. No. Instant disqualification.
I think as far as manufacturing goes, Marty Daniels definitely set
Really?
a lot of standards that in manufacturing processes, teamwork, team building. Reed Knight also, he's got a heck of a facility going in Florida. Ronnie Barrett. I mean, it's very hard to list, who's number one, number two, and number three, but all three of those companies are definitely on top of the list.
Okay, interesting. All right, pretty solid list, I think most people would say.
I would have to go with Daniel.
Yeah, but we're talking
Daniel.
domestic here too.
Yeah.
There's
Domestic,
also,
yeah.
internationally, there's some pretty impressive things that are going on as well. But domestically, those three key in my sector, those three are the ones that you seem to see and really stand apart.
Mhm. Well, so now that that's kind of out of the way, let's just dive into Troy Asymmetric, Dale
Sure.
Monroe, and kind of the whole situation there. That again, this is something I heard about like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I didn't really start shooting or getting into guns until about 2018. But Troy came up in a conversation And then somebody's like, "Oh yeah, they hired the Ruby Ridge sniper." And I was like, "Oh really? That's a really dumb PR move. That's a terrible idea." And that's kind of like some of the information that's swirling around that I had heard, and then just kind of assumed that it was true, right? Now that's not exactly what happened. So Lon Horichi is the actual person who took the shots that day, September 14th, 1992, I want to say. But the person that you guys hired for Troy Asymmetric, which I guess you could also go into kind of the difference between Troy Asymmetric, and then Dale Monroe, who was the support spotter for Mr. Horichi.
Right. So we had, at the time, we had Troy Defense and Troy Industries. Troy Defense was handling military and law enforcement on the weapon side, and Troy Industries was our commercial and international side. We do business in about 40 different countries. So that was, we thought that we would divide them. One of my classmates from the state police was in explosive ordnance disposal for most of his career, and suggested that with the government sequester that had happened, the government was no longer giving free EOD training out to police departments and other agencies. So we happen to have the number one guy in post-blast investigation retiring from the FBI. I got introduced to him, Kevin Miles, great guy. All he did his whole career was post-blast investigation for terrorist blasts worldwide. And then his wife, Reggie, she was retiring. They were classmates in the FBI Academy. They retired together, and they wanted to move to Massachusetts. So she became the security chief at Troy Industries. And then he took on Troy Asymmetric, and which is a company we started basically based on him coming on. That was a whole new venture. Okay, Kevin, you're in charge of this. We're going to do your explosive post-blast or your combat post-blast course, and do as you see fit. It was a one-man show, just him. So he said, all right, I want to expand the repertoire, see if we can get work, because to be honest, we never got a single job out of him on the combat post-blast. There was no classes ever given. There was a whole bunch of expenses. So he says, I'm going to add some guys that I work with. And he mentioned he had an HRT guy, and I'd known a lot of HRT guys from stuff they've used of our products. No idea. I don't know names or whatever. Go ahead. No problem. Well, no sooner than he posted, he got this guy, Jody, I can't remember his last name, but he was a Chicago, basically political hack.
Jody Weiss.
Former agent. And from everything I've heard from bureau folks and other, after looking into him, coward. And like, boom, this doesn't fly, because the guy's an anti-gun guy. I mean, it stood out, boom, released. And then they had this Dale Monroe guy. I don't know who Dale Monroe was, knew nothing of his background. Boy, did the internet correct me on that. And I found out everything, that he was at Ruby Ridge. So to this day, I've never met Dale Monroe. I've never seen his face. I've been pictures, I've seen it, but I've never met him. But we had this one phone call when this all broke loose. And the guy related to me that, he was very remorseful for what happened at Ruby Ridge. He also said that he had gone out and talked to thousands of people nationally to give a lecture on how the FBI screwed this up and what could be done to prevent it from happening. And that pretty much impressed me, is that, and the guy not only, was just not to go hide in the shadows, and he admitted fully what his role was in it. And then he decided that he was going to go out and educate people and talk about it to try to figure out how that we could ever stop this from happening again. Because remember, we were coming out of Waco back then. So in 92, I was an armored truck driver. I wasn't even a cop then, but I remember Waco. I bought several copies of the Waco, The Big Lie, which I think was Linda Thompson put out, on video back then. And I got them because my dad and I would argue about it. It's like, this was not right, Dad. This was terrible. And I bought these videos, and my friends had them. I had them, about all the crap that happened at Ruby Ridge, or at Waco. And we're coming out of that era, and then this Ruby Ridge happened. And like, I knew it was happening at the time. I was in the military, and I was in the backdrop of things, but I found out, of course, afterwards, clear as day, what the aftermath and everything else. And I was in a combat EMT course through Contoms, and they actually had the combat, or the post. It was where they went in and they actually examined his son. And it was one of the most disturbing things I'd ever seen, because up on the screen, they've got Randy Weaver's son, and they're showing the quick field autopsy or whatever they did. And I was like, highly inappropriate, that they even did that. And I still can remember the picture of the gunshot in his arm and everything else. It was awful, absolutely awful. And so I have this conversation. Kevin called him, and we're like, man, this is what's going on here. And I talked to him for probably about maybe 40 minutes. And I was like, man, I understand what you're doing. And it seems like you're doing right by God. There's no question about it that this was a big mistake. You've gone out and tried to educate the public on it. You've testified honestly on it. And at the time, I was coming fresh out of the state police. And I can remember many, many calls that I've gone on where you arrive at a situation and it is just a mess. Like, we had a lot of police departments that had part-time police officers, and then we were the only primary law enforcement in the area. I did rural patrol. I wasn't on highways. So they would get themselves in situations, and you just arrive and just like, how did this happen? How did this get so far out of control? So I kind of I felt for the Weavers most importantly, because it was just absolutely awful what happened. But also I understood where he was coming from as far as being dropped into a volatile situation that was not of his making, but the way it was handled was just atrocious. And that was part of the thing that was like, I was angry about that. And it just, as I read, like, their ROE was awful. Basically, they were doing shoot on sight type orders. And it was like, When is that ever okay in law enforcement? Their equipment was awful. They had 10 power unitals on like a sub 200 yard shot. You have no field of view. And it's like, the guys were running. I mean, it was just an awful situation. It was just absolutely crap. So we talked, and I said, I'm not going to disparage him. I'm just going to say, I'll tell you what, this is never going to work. And we just go our separate ways. And that's the way we did it. So he was never in the Troy building, never received a piece of paper from Troy, never received a paycheck from Troy, never signed a contract. I've never met him to this day. I've never talked to him again since that one phone call. I've never even had his phone number. I have no idea where he even lives. But it stayed with us as a big stain because H&S Precision had hired Lon Hariucci prior to that. I don't know how many years prior. And, when we got here to Tennessee, we got 2 emails from anonymous emails and 2 phone calls from a guy that said he was coming here with his H&S rifle to kill me. And it was like, oh man, come on. Because again, that rumor was that we had hired Lon Hariucci.
Right.
So Kevin hired him. Kevin put him on the website. The internet corrected. And I can tell you that the Troy asymmetric thing was the biggest mistake I ever made in business, period, end of the story. It was a huge suck of financial resources, time, money, and, with this, huge controversy with, Dale Monroe appearing on our website for 2 days and just the damage. And, hey, I'm sorry. And I pray to God that this didn't hurt Mrs. Weaver, who survived this as a baby and at all. But, we remedied it immediately. Like, he no longer was with Troy. I closed the company. Nobody, the training, we do training now with, we bring in Tenant Group and some others that do our firearms training, but this was not my thing. I was not an EOD guy. I saw it as a business opportunity. And I had a classmate that told me, hey, this guy's coming out. He's retiring. You're going to get all this training. We'll buy bass boats together or something. And total backfire there. And it was just like blindsiding. And, all this happened. And what you see online is that was within 2 days, like kind of crash course on stuff. And it was just.
And was this, when was this time frame for you? 2013?
2013. Yeah.
Okay. Because I went back. I did a lot of digging into this. So I went back to 2013. I have, let me see. I think this is the correct link. I have your forum post on AR15.com from 2013 back in the day. Now there are a couple things in here. I kind of want to play this clip from the original 1992 hearing, because this is the thing that people were really upset about. So this is Dale Monroe. At this point in time, keep in mind, this hearing is happening in 1995, 3 years after the incident.
Yeah.
Now, he may have changed his opinions in the future. He may have, gone back and, preached about, I think you said he wrote a book on it, things that went wrong with it, or he does a lecture series on it.
I don't know any of this stuff, what he did or what he didn't. All I know is he went on and gave talks on what is it called? Critical incident management, to be able to kind of prevent this from going as bad as it did. So, but like I said, I've never talked to him about his hearing or anything like that. It was just.
Well, I just want to play this clip for context of Dale Monroe. So Dale Monroe was
Yeah.
not the guy who took the shot, but
Yeah.
at the time he's defending the shot that killed Vicky Weaver.
Expectation of following constitutional law when the case is deliberated on for years, and there's a 5-4 decision by the Supreme Court. So we're interested in how you felt about it. And you think that shot was justified under the standard for avoiding death or grievous bodily harm, even though nobody was in jeopardy at that precise moment?
Yes, I believe the second shot was just as justified as the first.
Would the assistant bring the door up? We don't.
And then they go into the whole thing about the door where Vicky Weaver was shot. But that is Dale Monroe, in his own words, during that investigation, essentially backing up Lon Horici, even though at certain times he says, like, the visibility was so bad we couldn't see. He alleges he didn't even know that there was glass in the door, which to me, if the visibility is that bad, I don't know how you could say that's a justified shot.
I don't know how they could justify the shots. They're firing from a position of cover. Weaver would have had no chance at getting around into them on the run, running for cover into a house.
Right.
They had a barricade situation. It was time for negotiators. They already had a deadly force incident with the marshals. It was just an absolute crap show from the beginning. From the first time ATF had involvement, they could have grabbed him. From what I see, if they needed to grab Weaver, they could have grabbed him downtown when he's in town for supplies or what have you. They didn't have to make a show of it, and they chose to make a show of it, and this is what happens.
What's silly too is that I don't know how long we want to stay on this, but that they had already had grabbed him, right? They pretended to be like broken down on the side of the road when they got him for the first charge, and then they switched dates on the date of his hearing, because the only thing he ever actually got that stuck on him, because it was entrapment with the short-barreled shotguns, was the failure to appear in court. Yeah. That's the only thing that they got him on when they essentially changed the dates on him, which is a wild, tragic story.
Right.
But,
and his wife was murdered for this, for a failure to appear.
And but Lon Horici knowingly took a shot inside of a house where he knew women and children were. Because it was Vicky and 3 daughters on the inside.
Right.
A 10-month-old, and then I think 10 and 14. Or Samuel was 14 at the time. But yeah, absolutely tragic incident.
Know what you're shooting and what's behind it.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, not so much there. But you can understand, though, like the backlash that the 2A community is going to have about that. Because I don't know if there is a more sensitive topic in the 2A community or space, if you will, than Ruby Ridge and Waco, right? Yep. It's like if you hire one of the Waco guys who's shooting people fleeing a fire, not going to look good on you. If you hire the guy who, shot Vicky Weaver in the head while she's holding her baby, not going to go well for you. And I think rightfully so in some ways, right? I think rightfully we should kind of ostracize these people from the community who commit these atrocious acts with, no justice on their end.
I would never knowingly hire somebody like that. Like I said, Kevin put this guy on the website. It lasted 2 days, and then the internet spoke. And then Dale Monroe parted ways from Troy as being just an internet sensation because he's never, like I said, I can't clear it enough. I've never met him ever, never shook his hand, never been in the same building as him, he's never been at a Troy function in a Troy building, represented Troy in any way other than on that internet page. And as an employer, one of the things also is because this guy did come on and is on there as an adjunct instructor, they posted him. I'm very careful. I don't like to disparage anybody. Even competitors. I don't have anything bad to say about a competitor. I mean, we do things differently. I like the way I do things, and because they've proven out over time through our quality or whatever measures that we've put to it, and that's why we do it that way. Marty does things differently than me. So in some aspects, we do things the same. We learn along the way. But when you have a personnel issue like this, you can't go dropping hand grenades on people. It doesn't work that way. Like, you're never going to see me make a statement of anybody that we terminated that actually worked here. That's between us and them. And if there's a court release that comes out, then we can give you all the information you want if they've signed a release. But in this situation, it's so weird because I didn't hire him. It just, this whole thing about, Wes hiring a baby killer.
Right. Well,
and we remedied it immediately. I think what people are angry about is that I didn't disparage him. I didn't, publicly assassinate him or whatever. The guy came into my life 2 days before it. and not to my welcoming. That's not something that I wanted to have happen in my young career in this industry. But we decided as a team and talking to him, like, this isn't going to work, and he went, and it went immediately. We didn't hire him, we didn't employ him, we didn't use him, and we most certainly didn't use him to represent our brand. And Troy Asymmetric had nothing to do with Troy Industries. I didn't even work in Troy Asymmetric. It was complete one guy. It was a one-man show to bring in bomb training. And
that's the thing with the internet, right? They're going to see Dale Monroe's face next to a Troy logo, and it's just that mental picture is never going to go away, right?
And for 48 hours,
it takes work.
Yeah, for 48 hours, his face was next to a Troy logo. Yeah. And that was it. And it was just, again, internet, so
now
there's nothing I can do to correct it, and there's going to be people, and we chased a lot of IP addresses back when this did kick off, and found two of the most prominent people that were speaking on this actually had IP addresses that were tied to hostile competitors. And so they were absolutely jetting it up at the time, but there are legitimately people who are very disturbed by what the government did at Ruby Ridge. I'm one of them. And I can totally understand, the ire that they have towards the team that was up there and everybody who even touched it, because it was just a awful situation that resulted in the homicide of a woman holding a baby. I mean, how more worse can a call out be and a situation be? And we all agree on that. There's no two ways about it. We all agree on it. But again, I didn't seek out Dale Monroe to come work for me. That was never the case. Ever. And so when this all came up, they said we put out a statement, and then he was gone at the same time, and that was it.
Now, the guy who did hire him, does he? Are you still friends or
not at all?
No.
Nope. Yeah, so he left employment and never spoke to him, seen him again. That was, like I said, he cost me a lot, and especially reputations take years to form, and they take minutes to lose. Mm-hmm. And again, this was a situation where I took damage on a decision that I didn't make. My decision was putting him in place and giving him autonomy, and he burned me on that. So no, that didn't last, and I have no relationship with him whatsoever. I don't even have his phone number. I mean, this is like I'd have no reason to talk to him, and his wife went at the same time.
Okay, so a follow-up question to that, and to kind of allow you guys to set the record straight as you currently stand now, 2026, early 2026. How do you view the Second Amendment, the civilians' right to bear firearms?
It's absolute.
I know. Okay,
it's absolute, and we always have. Another controversy that happened was right after Sandy Hook. We had gotten a $23 million deal with Dick's Sporting Goods. They were going to roll out our rifles at their stores. And maybe 2 days after Sandy Hook it was Black Friday. They had this Black Friday door kicker sale. At the time, our guns were about $1,400 retail for the A4. And they did it in a way that people could walk into Dick's and get one of our guns for $600. So back then there weren't cheap ARs and everything else. So that happened. And then all of a sudden they took back orders on them too, because they'd only taken whatever the month's worth was for that month. They announced that, black guns are evil and that we're not going to sell them anymore. And they came to me for like 900 back orders. And I told them to go pound sand. So you're not supporting the Second Amendment. We're not supporting you. You can go pound sand. We're going to sue you. Sue me. There's absolutely no way I'm going to do business with you again in any shape, form. My family's not going to do business with you. We're done. And I held to that. That's that's just part of the way that we are. What we do here is great, that we do so much for the military and government and all these foreign governments, but the commercial market is really our bread and butter. All of our employees are, and especially in Tennessee, we're all into the Second Amendment. Our employee sales down here, we're about half the workforce we were in Massachusetts, and the employee sales of our products are up over, I want to say that in Mass, top year was probably 40 grand. Last year was 250 grand here. So we're guns, we're into everything about it, and into the different communities. We support Goal, a lot of others. It's hard for me to get behind NRA because some of the corruption,
Right. Well,
was-
that was kind of going to be my follow up.
Yeah.
It's nice to say like, oh yeah, well, Second Amendment, absolutely, but
Absolutely.
actively supporting it in
Yeah.
some ways.
There's
You
not
gotta
a
say,
product there's not a product we make ever that's not been available to civilians or commercial or patriots, whatever you want to call them, other than the ones that are absolutely restricted. Like, we can't sell post 86 machine guns to commercially. I think that's something that might come out our way at some point if they can reverse it. But right now it's just the way it is. But we've been doing suppressors for 15 years, and we've always sold our suppressors commercially. We had a brief hiatus because we didn't have capacity on some contracts, but we've always sold our suppressors commercially. We've always sold our SBRs commercially. We were the first to bring in a PDW on the 5.56 platform, and that was big for us. The M7A1 trunk monkey. You saw it in the movie Ambulance with Jake Gyllenhaal. Those were.
oh yeah, let me pull that up. Actually, I have that. somewhere around here.
Those were big for us, and we were big at selling those into the commercial market. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, talk to me a little bit about then your civilian versus military customers, because I know when we chatted briefly, is a majority of your sales still contract, 60, 70%, somewhere in that range?
No, we have probably OEM 25%, commercial 30 to 45%, and then foreign commercial and military and everything else fills the mold after that. This year and last year is going to be heavy on the military contract because we have a very large contract on that T1 that we talked to you about. Right. And so that's going to take a lot of the book of business on our capacity on knocking that out. So, but normally we try to keep a healthy mix, because if you're too dependent on commercial, and we have what happened a couple of years ago where all of a sudden they banned pistol braces. Well, that was 55% of my commercial business. And then
oh, really? It was pistols?
Oh, yeah, or pistols and others, because we do the others we introduced the other in Connecticut and New Jersey. And so that was big business for us. And then we had an export ban come in where they wanted to reanalyze 5 countries, none of which we've ever done business in. And they were going to pause licensing for those 5 countries. But for the end effect was for over 5 months, they paused all of our licenses for export, all of them. So it was a big crunch, and it was a way that the administration at the time was doing their anti-gun push subtly, kind of like the banking thing that they had done before, and then this pause on the commercial on the exports. So, but when you're balanced, and we try to have a good folder for international commercial, international government, government here, commercial, but a lot of our government here goes through prime vendors like ADS and things like that. So we're kind of blind to where that goes. And a lot of it, like we had won the FBI contract for all their carbines for getting their M4s rebuilt at one point in the last maybe 6 years or something. I had no idea. Like there was an agent that was in my scout troop. We were both assistant scout masters. Said, "Hey, we got issued your rifle today." And I said, "No, you didn't. FBI doesn't buy my rifles." No, we had to turn in everything. We got it. And what it was is Alpha Rail and sights and gas block, and they had built their own thing. But right. that was through like Quantico Tactical, and we had no idea. But we see 10,000 of this and 10,000 of that go out. It could go anywhere. Like the Australian SAS, they bought all of our stuff for all their guns. We had no idea until we start getting pictures from downrange, and then we start asking questions. Oh yeah, that's cool. That kind of thing.
So it kind of goes into a black box, and then you figure it out when you start seeing it somewhere.
They're approved, and we know they're doing the right thing, and it's going to the right people. But sometimes we're blind to actually where it goes. We didn't even know we were involved in contracts, and sometimes, and we're just quoting quantities, to different entities.
Mm-hmm. Now, talk to me a little bit about, since we're talking about the business and industry. Obviously, 2020, insane spike for just about everybody and everything. Yeah. But now we're kind of normalizing, so to speak. So how has the Trump slump 2.0 been for you guys?
Prior to us starting deliveries for the contract, it's been dead. I mean, and anybody that tells you anything differently is lying. The industry really took a hit and a slide back. Now it feels really good. We've got a very good book of business on our exports, on the commercial side, as well as our military exports. We've got 2 more countries coming on board for the same NSN, which is awesome. So we're going to be pretty flat out with all that, and we're doing expansion this year. I know that the jobs number came out. I heard today. I didn't. Did you catch what it was? It seemed like
I have not seen
negative.
it, the jobs
But-
numbers today.
But we're hiring, and things are going well for us. But the last 3 years, yeah, it's been a struggle. It really has been. There's just the regulatory side was huge, especially the export pause, and then the brace rule, and then the last year was really weird because we knew that the suppressor bill was coming, or we thought it would. So
Mhm.
basically, all suppressor sales shut off. Like nobody's buying them, and then
course.
not only that, when it did pass, then they definitely shut off because nobody's buying, waiting for the $200 tax stamp to go away in January. So we saw a little bit of a pickup in like late November, December, but really it was kind of not what we had planned or seen. So, we kind of called that one wrong. So,
Well, while we're on the topic of that, I guess, why don't we just run through the new T1 and some of the new cool stuff that you have. So this is one of your contract T1 rifles, right? Everybody kind of has their own version of the, Sons of Liberty Gunworks has their Mark One,
Mhm.
Geisley has the Mod One, you have the T1. Okay, can you explain the nomenclature to me? Why is everybody starting out with a one model in 2026 when people have been doing it for decades now?
I don't know. We started 2 years ago. So it's the T1. It's our first soft rifle and suppressor contract. So we just
Mhm.
went with T1. That one in the picture is a semi-auto SBR commercial. The only difference is it's not full auto.
Right.
That also, if you notice, it's got the 3-chamber muzzle brake. So these typically all go out suppressed. The rifle version or the carbine version is a mid-length 14-inch. That has what we call the NATO flash hider. It takes a blank adapter. It's a 3-prong and takes a suppressor. The gun that you're looking at now, the 11.5, it's a carbine length gas system, and we talked about that on the phone briefly.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do is separate the heat sources. Like the gas block, very centric point of heat, chamber, gas block, and muzzle. When you have a suppressor mounted, we wanted to give it some distance and dwell time between the end of the muzzle and the gas block. So that's why that is set up the way that it is. The rail is a 9.6-inch rail, and our can reflexes back over the barrel just under 2 inches. The can is our Kryptos. It's the same Kryptos that you can buy. The military ones have a NSN number on them. And actually, I think pretty soon this quarter, I think they all just have the NSN number on them. But Recoil Magazine tested all the top cans last year, and we came out to be the shortest and quietest 5.56 can on the market by Recoil Magazine. And it was quietest at the shooter's ear and shortest when installed.
When installed, because it is a reflex, so you have
Yeah,
that
it's-
extra
it's
2 inches. So
deceiving.
it's cheating a little bit in terms
A
of
little bit.
added length. But yeah,
But if you look at
that's why you do
the picture on the screen, you see the first weld to the left of the Troy logo.
Mhm.
That's approximately where the end of your flash hider is. So to
Right.
give you an idea, you're under 4 inches of length added to the gun.
Mhm.
And those are made right on the, there's 3 of the machines you can see in the shop behind us. That's where those are all made.
Right,
This
and
is
you
the,
guys.
This is the suppressor cell here. And then on that side of the factory is all milling operations. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
And so, well, here, what else should we talk about on this, though? One thing that I had brought up in our brief conversation earlier is I think on the 11.5 version, so you have a reflex. One of the downsides that I see just looking at it is that you got to cut the rail down, right? Because you're losing about an inch of rail space versus, if you don't have a reflex can. So you're tightening up a little bit on your rail estate, so to speak,
Rail
for
estate,
lambs or lights or whatever it might
Yep.
be. Yeah.
We have so the rail is 9.6 inches long on it. I guess comparatively, probably I think a 416 rail is right around there. So I see a lot more risers that are out, like the Irregular Defense and Unity. We have a riser as well. So what we tend to see is stacked risers, and then PEX lights off to the side. We had a couple at SHOT Show that were set up with equipment on them, so it kind of made sense. And I could surely show you one now, but I don't want you to get a strike on it.
It gets us kicked out of YouTube
Yeah.
with that. That's the problem with streaming on YouTube. On
Yeah.
Rumble, they're really cool with it. Not on YouTube for some reason.
Yeah.
But
And
no,
then the sights that you see on there, they're tritium. So there are standard folding battle sights that we've made for 20 years, but they have the tritium inserts in them. The handguard, it's 100 thou wall thickness. Industry standards right around 60. We stack our slots as well, and then we have hoops of metal that go all the way around that handguard, every set of slots, even to the major of the Picatinny and between the cooling holes. So it gives you crush resistance plus the 100 thou wall. We started texturing handguards about 3 years ago. We machine in the texturing, so it gives you kind of a grip on it. The patented quad lock that we have on there, it's one of the strongest in the industry. So we get no deflection to bend. It's always return to zero on it. We've done plenty of weight tests on that. And on the Arca rail version as well, we can hang a backpack over the Arca rail and stabilize in a tripod and not deflect accuracy. Sand cutter bolt carrier assembly and chrome, Magpul magazine, windowed 30 round.
So is the bull carrier group, is it anything special, or is it just a hard chrome sand cutter, CAC style carrier?
Hard chrome MPI Carpenter with sand cutters.
Okay.
And
gotcha,
then
gotcha.
charging handles, a gas diversion, ambidextrous charging handle. It's called our Numa. The back plate. Yep, there you go. Wow. All right. So if you flip, if you had a picture of the backside, you can see the gas channel going out underneath.
I don't have a picture of that side of it. It's probably on the website somewhere. I could probably find
actually,
a picture of it.
Yeah, it's the other side. And then the recoil system, we developed a stainless steel and melanite head slide hammer type recoil system. And what it does, it eliminates a lot of the recoil impulse, because what's happening is the spring comes to the rear, the body stays against the head, it reaches the rear, the spring takes the head off the body rather than the weight's going to your shoulder and then shifting forward. So it's a different type of feel on the impulse on that.
Would you happen to have one of those recoil systems handy? Because reading about it, I was very curious as to what was actually going on with it. Because it's difficult to visualize in my head the
Gotcha.
recoil system, because that seemed novel. Because I know a lot of people, like Geisley has their Super 42 system, which is like a braided wire job. The Mark 1, they decided to go with an A5 system, so it's longer and heavier. But your guys had a bit more of a novel solution to a buffer system.
Yeah, and ours is an A5 length system.
Okay.
So, I'll show you the spring too. So the spring is a 17.7 passivated wire, which is very important on corrosion resistance and also longevity. A lot of people use music wire, everything else, but it's worth paying the extra to have these springs made. And this is the slide hammer system here. So it's very simple. It's a 2-piece buffer. The retention of the actual buffer Delrin insert in the back it's ringed, and so is the inside, so it snaps in place. There's no pin to fail. The head is maintained on here. So as I go into the cycle of operation and it starts to extract and come back, the bolt is going backwards with the body against the head. When it reaches the back, the spring takes the head off, follows the bolt close, and the body follows and tamps the bolt carrier. So that's how that works. And the heads are melanited, and they're just indestructible. We originally did this. We actually got approached by the French Special Forces as they're breaking buffers in the 416. And the HK cost on a buffer is €90. And they kept on having to replace them. They said, can you solve the problem? So I did. And we came up with that by just running the 2-piece stainless steel for their system. And we do those in different weights. Our TPR series has a very similar buffer in it as well on a normal length carbine system.
Okay, sweet. Interesting. Yeah, because I've seen some of the, I don't know if you've seen the KAK Industries, but they have a spring-loaded head on them, essentially. So I guess it acts as kind of like a 2-stage buffer, if that makes sense.
So one of the design considerations, and then also the end user requirement, was that the guns had to be field maintainable. And no matter what happens, if they're forward deployed, any part on our rifle system can be, and sometimes an assembly, like if somebody runs over the back end of this gun and bends the buffer tube up, an M4 buffer assembly could be put on it. If somebody trashes the bolt, somehow and needs a bolt carrier, an M16 or M4 bolt carrier could be used on it. And that was absolutely essential. That's why you don't see a lot of the special doodads, because special things require special parts to replace. I don't know, Greg, you had something about that. We were talking the other day on it.
So when you look at ours, everything's mil spec. So you got to think of the end user, like when we're in Afghanistan or something. The parts for an M4, they're just abundant. They've been around forever. So if I broke a door or spring or something, I could go to my armor and just get a new door hinge or spring or whatever it is. Our barrels are using mil spec barrel nuts. So technically there's nothing special there either, right? So if we break that barrel nut or it cracks or shims, the Army has thousands of them, so it's really easy to replace and move on. So it was very important to be, if we're in austere environments, that if the gun breaks, we can fix it, because everybody that's ever done anything with guns, if a gun goes down in a stack, your stack is less lethal, which is a huge, huge disadvantage when you're in war. So,
and a lot of these units that have adopted the T1, they've been issued Colt Mark 18 variants, M4 variants for about 10 years. So that allows them to already have a built-in logistics center to be able to work on these things if they need to downrange. As you know, we catch up on all the spare parts and everything else.
Even down to our trigger, we went with S7 steel tool for our disconnect that we EDM wire here in house. So
even though we make our disconnectors here out of S7, you could put an M4 disconnector in it. Be less reliable over time, but it still could take those parts. And we learned a lot, like when I did the IC carbine program back in 2011, the extremes that the guns have to go through in the heat conditions, dust conditions, sand conditions, and cold. Cold is really, that's an interesting thing. They put it down to 30 below, and then it has to perform, and that's where guns really get shooken out as to what's good and what's not. They have to be able to run chamber cycle, both suppressed and unsuppressed. Like we were talking about barrel length or gas length options on like the 11.5. Yeah, a lot of the commercial brands, Roscoe and some others, are running a 11.5 barrel that has a mid-length gas system.
I think they call it their patrol system,
right?
Because it's in between.
Right. That would never cut it in the military, because the gun has to fire unsuppressed at 30 below. There's not enough dwell time to create, even with your gas tube max size is like 118. So even if you blew a 118 hole in a gas port that should be half of that, you're probably going to still have difficulty cycling. So what we looked at is like all the environmentals that have to happen, and then what do we want to do? We want to make sure that we can standardize and have a system that's going to survive any conditions, whether it be weather or whether it be chemical. It's got to be able to be deconned. There's a lot of things that go into this. Even the depth of our machining that we do for the handguard grooves, that's got to be able to be deconned, or the gun's trash if it goes through a chemical environment, for instance. So, and then the steel barrel nut that Greg brought up, there's a safety issue with that as well. So when Eugene Stoner designed the M16, he was going for the lightest gun possible. And I think he came up at like 5.8 pounds. If he had changed the barrel nut, he could have made 5.5 if he did aluminum, but he didn't. And the reason being is because when a gun detonates, it detonates at the chamber. And that barrel nut actually helps to contain that blast, because the 6061 aluminum tends to like bow out if it blows. Like all your handguards are usually 6061. So if that blows up, it's going to bow out. Like a 300 blackout gets digested, and a 5.56 behind it. If the barrel nut goes and it's 70-75 in that receiver, that's a hand grenade, because 70-75 fractures and fragments. So by having that steel barrel nut, we've had detonations on guns that we've gotten uppers back here, always the same, 300 blackout, then followed by a 5.56. The barrel nuts are always intact, and the handguards are always intact.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never really thought about that before, because I've seen like insane round burn downs on aluminum barrel nuts, and they usually don't go in that regards. Like I don't know if you're familiar with golden
detonation,
right, like an over like a bore obstruction or an overpressured round or something like that. But usually I think, oh well, they're fine because of they passed like 1,400 rounds on one of Golden Webb's tests or something like that. But I've never thought about it in a detonation context.
Yeah,
interesting. Now, do you actually have one of your handguards and barrel nuts handy? So, because people had questions about that, I was noticing that in the live chat. They wanted to see.
I have some handguards. I don't know if you have a barrel nut on that.
It's a mil-spec barrel nut, but everybody's seen them before.
Right. So you see all these teeth that are in here? What happens is when I install this handguard, I go slightly off down the teeth through the centers of those holes. When I cam the handguard in place, each one of these teeth is a strip of metal that actually locks behind that barrel nut tooth. So every barrel nut tooth is supported. And then on the sides, we have these holes here where I have 4 bolts and 4 cams that lock under the barrel nut and pull force on it. And that's what gives us the strength. So you can see the teeth on the barrel nut here, and then they go down inside the handguard, and then the handguard locks when it gets right to here. And then this stop tab, we actually patented this years ago, is the alignment tab. What that does is when it goes against the receiver, you can't torque the barrel nut with the handguard. If somebody was to misinstall the barrel nut, not to the right torque, you can actually put a forward grip on a handguard and probably unscrew the barrel nut, where you can't now because the tab is holding it in place and keeping it from
I
being
see.
returned in an unlocked position. So again, it's all about redundancy. Reliability is achieved through redundancy. It's just making sure that you're taking extra steps to make sure it holds up in the field. This particular handguard has the same lock as our whole SOC C line, our Alpha rails, these quad lock system. This one is called our Surge rail. It has a 1.8 inch diameter entry, and this is what we run for internally mounting suppressors. So a lot of like school safety officer guns, confined space guns, they'll use a rail like this. And then this is another variant of the ARCA version of the same type of locking system.
Mhm.
Goes on the same steel barrel nut. This one is a 308, locks on, and then it provides the ARCA rail for tripod mounting. So it gives it a lot of stability. Again, that 100 thou wall thickness. Having the ARCA mount actually machined in makes a huge difference, because no matter what adapter you use mounting on an M-LOK, you're going to get flex between the handguard and the adapter. When
Right.
you have it machined into the handguard, you don't get any flex out of it. So
Yeah, and this is a thing that we've seen floated around from a couple of the companies too. Because while I was at SHOT Show this year, I got to shoot the Sons of Liberty Gunworks. They had their Mark 1 SD out, which had a similar rail to this, where they're all going with the I think it's the Hux flow through can, that weird 30 caliber high back pressure can. So Hux making a non flow through can, which is quite funny. It's revolutionary for them.
yeah.
But yeah, so they had a high back pressure can with a very similar rail system, and I think Geisley was doing something very similar with that as well. And that was all kind of chasing the same contract, if I'm not mistaken.
Not for us. It was for our own thing that we're doing. That's
Oh, really? Okay, just
yeah,
happened to come out
there wasn't
roughly
a-
the same time.
There wasn't there was originally a surge contract maybe 5 to 10 years ago that was the Army was doing, and I think everybody failed because the guns just get too hot. 3 magazines at a high rate of fire, full auto, they get really hot, and it's really hard to, and then you start cooking batteries on lasers and everything else. So it's a very specialized thing. We made ours at 1.8 inch diameter. Most suppressors in industry are at 1.5. Ours is at like 1.7. So, 1.5 can will do well inside that can, inside that handguard. But still, you've got a suppressor that is generating heat.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing with SD rails, because I've built a couple of SD guns just out of, like spare parts or whatnot. And you'll get them to where, okay, it's an M-LOK SD rail, but now you don't have any clearance underneath your handguard. So now you can't attach.
We did Picatinny on ours.
Right, which is more robust to begin with, and it's
it
not
doesn't
worrying about
get a
internal clearance.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But again, we were talking about the civilians and military sales. Like most of the rifles, the IHR and extremist hostage rescue is the government side of the PSW, which you just showed on the screen.
Mhm.
And the uses of that go mostly towards school resource officers, because they can backpack them. They're ready to go. Going down the hallway of a school, we've got the quietest 5.56 can in the country. It makes sense. They're only carrying 2 to 3 magazines. Makes sense. Confined space guns. We have a couple of police departments that are constantly hitting trailers, or Port Authority police that are getting on the buses and subway cars. It makes sense to have a 22-inch long suppressed gun. But going through a rifle course would be awful with something like this. And
Yeah, well, I mean, just shooting 300 or 400 rounds in a range session would probably get in
it would be awful. So we ship them with rail covers, but even those get hot. But again, it's a specialized thing. But on the commercial side, we've had farmers down in Texas that are commercial farmers that have bought PSWs to have on their tractors while they're doing field work, because as they tilt things up, the coyotes or whatever comes out, and they just whack them right out of the cab. They don't need air protection. It's perfect for them. So there's definitely a commercial civilian patriot application to have a rifle like this. And even for home defense, 22 inches long, 5.56, completely air safe, even indoors. Yeah, people like that. So.
And now you make that in 5.56 and 300 blackout, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, we make the rifles in both, and then the handguards, of course, will accommodate both.
Right. Yeah, of course. Sweet. Let me see here. I did want to talk to you guys about your suppressors specifically, especially in 2026 because I don't know, you guys walked around SHOT Show at all this year, but I think they had 150 or 200 new suppressor manufacturers at SHOT Show alone.
What's your
Right.
definition of manufacturer?
I mean that they have a website that sells something, you know. That's about it for
Yeah.
some of these. Yeah, manufacturing is maybe the wrong word. Now I do know some guys like legit have like a little bit of a machine shop and they're making
Yeah.
like really cheap cans and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But there's been a plethora, an abundance of
Yeah.
new 3D printed,
Mhm.
you know, flow through, reduced back pressure, whatever that happens to mean, cans entering the
Sure.
market. But you guys are still running like what I would consider to be kind of a traditional old style can. It's not made
Yeah.
out of Inconel. It's made out of stainless steel. I think it's 304 and 17.4.
We did Inconel back in 2001. I think we were the first ever to do it. And we found out that no matter what, K1 always will turn to bubble gum. And it wasn't really, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze on it. And we found that the heat dissipation, like when ARFCOM did their review of our suppressor after recoil, they took all the data recoil had, and then they did different testing like flash suppression. So we're like one of the top in the world on flash suppression. That's important for people who use our guns that are in harm's way. Noise suppression, that's important for people that are going into harm's way, especially going into inside of a building or going in through a school, you know, to have that. So the two things that a suppressor does that are very important to a mission is suppress flash and suppress sound. And we have crushed that. We're in one of the tops in the world with what we do. So that is our focus. It's mission generated. So they have breathing cans and all this other things. We've regulated that by how we set our gas on our rifles, how we use that pneuma charging handle. We don't have an excessive gas issue. Also, you know, dealing with fifth group all the time, you know, we're constantly dealing with them. Do you know what suppressors they have on their guns?
RC2s,
Probably.
NT4s.
Yeah. So they don't wear respirators when they shoot them. So it's not really an issue of people getting sent out of the service for house, you know, the gases, and then police departments. Same thing is like there's really good marketing on the breathing cans, but there's a really big sacrifice on sound and flash suppression and also lifespan of the can.
Mhm.
And I know a lot of guys that have hearing aids. I know no one that's gone out of work for hazardous suppressor gases. And the SOCOM study that always gets cited about these suppressor gases, the Carl Gustav rocket launcher and breaching was probably the number 1 and 2 of all that. And way down on the list somewhere, oh yeah, suppressors have gases. Okay.
Mhm.
But in the real world of things, I would rather be able to hear and give commands effectively in a critical incident like a school shooter or something like that, than to worry about having a little bit of gas that's residing around me, which is still going to, depending on which way the wind's going, the gas is still there. So
Right.
that's why our focus has been on cans that actually perform. You know, we're looking at heat dissipation. Number 1, sound. Number 2, flash. Number 3, heat dissipation. Our cans shed heat faster than Inconel cans do. Also, the design of our can, we have no outer tube on our baffles. We invented that. Troy invented no outer tube. We hold the first patent in the world on having cans that are baffles stacked together and then welded. And that's something that we developed. One, we wanted to increase airflow within the can, use that 50 thou wall thickness for more flow inside. 2, we wanted better heat dispersion rather than having heat trapped within a can. And 3, weight. We wanted to be able to maintain a high performance suppressor without having to really burden it down with weight. So
Mhm.
we came up with something that I think is just something you can rely on. It's a forever suppressor, according to ARFCOM. You know, if you're going to buy one can, you want it to last forever, it's definitely going to be something that's just like what we have. So,
Yeah, and that's an interesting dynamic because when you're a manufacturer and you're not only manufacturing, again, quote unquote, suppressors, but also the rifles, you can tune them together to work fine, right?
Right.
Whereas a lot of these guys are only, you know, they're designing a flow through can or reduced back pressure can to hit that target for, you know, the unassuming civilian, so to speak, because they're having to keep in mind they have no idea what the end user is going to put this on, right? But you guys have the ability, the advantage to, well, we tune our rifles to work with
And
our
actually-
cans, so that's how we're mitigating back pressure from the get-go excess gases from the get-go by designing your rifles to work with your cans, right? That's an
Right.
advantage you
Yeah,
guys have.
we don't tune the rifles. We engineer and manufacture rifles that are designed to be suppressed.
Mm.
So it's not like we're out there like gunsmithing and hand fitting them. I mean, we're rolling racks of, hundreds of rifles at a time through, and that they're engineered to be to work flawlessly and to be repeatable from the first rifle built of the year to the last rifle of the year, first one of the contract to the last one of the contract. So
Now, have you guys thought about bringing to market a different style of can that does not have the same sort of military application, or is that something that you're not even interested in? Because for
I think
me,
the
as
market's
a
kind of flooded right now with,
Well, yeah.
there's basically two, from what I'm seeing, there's two, maybe three print companies, and then there's 100 people buying from the same place. And a lot of them are changing cosmetics and then just buying the technology that those places have. The longevity is not there. They don't warranty cans. So I think that this people are going to buy them. I think they're going to lead to disappointment when there's better options out there. There's some really cool tech that came out at SHOT 2 that isn't your typical. Like you have the can that actually is drawing air in and keeping it cool. That's very interesting. I think it's a Venturi system or something. My son's the engineer and was running it by me, but
they were very
I
defensive
was intrigued
about
by that.
So I have a buddy who is an engineer for one of the larger suppressor companies, and he asked that gentleman some questions, and he was being a little cagey about how
really?
it actually works. So
Yeah.
I'm very interested to see how it actually works, because that's there. Anytime you have a new market coming up, you're going to get a lot of snake oil salesmen in kind of way, right? They're going to say, "Oh, it's lighter." It's less back pressure, it's quieter with less flash, and it's the most durable can on the market. I'm like, well, one of those things can't be true. We can't get all of those
There's
things.
always going to be a compromise somewhere along the way.
Yeah.
Like our compromise is that if you stick our can on a Colt 11.5, for instance, they gas at 0.75. That makes the gun reliable with all kinds of ammunition amongst NATO, right?
And miserable to shoot.
So when you put a can on it, you're ejecting it like 130. We gas it like 0.68.
Yeah.
So when you put a can on it, it's ejecting right at 3 o'clock where it should be, right? So that's the difference in that, and that when we engineer a system like that. But if I was to put my can on that Colt, it's going to be awful injection without regulating the gas. So that's the compromise on our can. You get reliability, longevity, the ultimate in sound suppression, the ultimate in flash suppression, the best heat dissipation that you can get off of a standard can. But the compromise is it's not going to be for everybody unless they're willing to adjust their gas to tame that gun, because most companies will deliberately overgas to accommodate ammo from Uganda, or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Or Wolf steel case or Russian ammo back when that was a thing.
Right.
And for people in the chat, I most good barrel manufacturers that I prefer to use, because I've built probably a couple thousand ARs in my time, is Geisley Criterion. Some of those guys, they all have about a .067, 68, somewhere in that range. They'll pin gauge in that range for an 11.5 carbine. So that's the appropriate gas port size. Yeah.
But we've seen them as high as 0.74 from other
you'll get
manufacturers.
like the cheap barrels, like your Ballistic Advantage Performance or some of your other barrels out there that'll pin like 0.76. Because I remember back in the day, I think it was Bear Creek Arsenal. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with them, but they've silly little company. They make some really cheap stuff. I think it was an 0.86 or something where I had one and it was ripping case heads off.
Wow.
Yeah. So leaving the round in the chamber and ripping case heads off. That was fun.
We had gotten some 10-3 barrels. We had the Colombian National Police contracts for like 8,000 guns we did for them. And it was refitting all M16A1s. So we get the barrels in, and they had specified their gas port, and they wanted to have the same gas port as Noveski at the time. And Noveski was doing like an 0.84, but what they didn't see is Noveski was putting a switch block on them. So we get their first articles together for them. They send up their colonel, and they're doing all the testing and everything else. And the guns are atrocious. They're actually ripping up the edges of the ejection port. And and they're like, whoa, this is awful. I said, yeah, I mean, the Crane standard is 0.70 for this barrel, and you guys said 0.84. Well, because Noveski does 0.84. I'm
right.
like,
yeah.
Yeah, but they do it because they put an adjustable gas on the thing. And it was just, it's crazy how out of control some of it can get. Noveski makes great stuff. I mean, fantastic stuff. It's just, you got to know what you're asking for. and the customer is right in the manner of taste, but they don't always have the facts. And we've had cops come up here and sit down, and they want an 062 gas port, and I'm like, okay, you can do an 060, and you want it to run unsuppressed and suppressed, and it's just what they're reading on Reddit or going to, you know, whatever forum, and they're building like what we would call a range or match gun, and not building a gun that's going to be reliable across the board. So that's a really critical choice that you make on how you gas your barrels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get away with that in austere environments with the
Right.
perfect ammo, and you know, you never
Yep.
change anything, and your buffers and springs are always at the same,
Right.
you know, tension and weight and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a
Yeah.
recipe for disaster in a professional gun.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Now, another question we talked about a little bit, but with the new suppressors,
Mhm.
almost all of the ones that I've seen come to market are either Inconel or titanium.
Mhm.
Do you have? So you already said Inconel's juice not worth the squeeze. Then why is it so hyped up?
Well, they're printing in it now. So, and to print titanium, Inconel, stainless, or whatever, the price is probably just about the same. So people are using it. It's been a really cool buzzword. When we've got some our PDWs, when we do contracts for those, we put an Inconel baffle and K1 on those, because it's a 7.5-inch barrel, and it could be a high use, especially on the select fire guns. But to give you an idea, like an Inconel baffle can be as much as $86 a piece.
Oh, really?
And yeah, Inconel's not cheap to work with. And stainless, 17.4, really hard stuff. It's raw is like $18 an inch to draw off of. So it's when you look at like pricing and stuff and what costs are, like we bring in precision ground stock for making our suppressors, and it's like $18 an inch. It's quite expensive. So it all stacks up. And then our last process, of course, is wire EDM, also an expensive process to do. But that wire EDM keeps our bore centered on those suppressors, and I can keep a tighter bore.
All right. Well, yeah, actually, I was trying to grab this off screen. Totally not attached to a firearm, but yeah,
that's an airsoft something.
Handguard. Airsoft
it's
thing,
just a handguard.
The can attached to that Mark one, yeah, it has an Inconel blast baffle, and then everything else is 17.4, right? Because that's the hard use component is the most expensive one, and then everything else is just 17.
Can you show suppressors on here?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Let me see if I can get this one off.
If you just grab one off the IC carbine, just the can off the IC.
Yeah. You got like guys behind the camera just ready to go grab anything.
Corey's here too. He does a lot of this as well. He just did what is it? Guns and whiskey and leather,
whiskey and windage.
Whiskey and windage.
Oh, okay.
Not too long ago. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a podcast, isn't it? I think I've seen those guys around. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, while we're talking about gas systems and some funny things like that, have you guys seen the Geissele phase array gas ports where they use 3 gas ports on the barrel in like a channel that then feeds into the gas block and the gas tube? Have you guys seen that?
I have not seen it. So it's 3 holes next to each other.
Well, they're symmetrical around the barrel, and then there's a
so
channel.
They're drawing gas from 3 places.
Yes, so there are 3 tiny holes.
No,
and so
the IC carbine.
It's supposedly, according to the claims, it's symmetrical. So the deformation on the bullet as it's passing by, it retains higher accuracy because it's symmetrical and it has more even port wear. I just curious if you guys have heard of that kind of like novel, interesting tech. I'm like, it seems like a more complicated way to get gas into a gas tube, but all right.
It seems like something you would do if you wanted to get a sole source contract and didn't have anything else to go on.
Well, I think that was developed for the MRGG program, MRGGA,
yeah, maybe
the 14.5, because I know that they did end up winning that.
Yeah.
So,
don't know
them and what was the other one that won that? LMT.
LMT's gotten a couple in the backdrop.
Yeah, I think it's LMT.
It's left hand threads.
There's too many cans around.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what about?
I'm going to show you a can that is a hybrid. What we were doing. This is one of military contracts from like 10 years ago. But so again, it's a reflex can, and you see this line right here.
Mm-hmm.
So what that is Inconel. So the muzzle, this one reflexes back further than the current. So the end of the muzzle is coming up like right here, and then you have Inconel, and then it goes right into the normal baffle stack.
That's got a tight baffle stack in there. What do you got, like 10 or 12 baffles in that?
It's been a year since I looked at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, including the end cap.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder if you guys would entertain me in a moment as I kind of go through some other questions regarding the industry and where it's going, especially when it comes to ammo or cartridges, I should say, because we've seen a lot of, I don't want to say wacky development, but we've seen the U.S. military try and go in a lot of different directions. So, 5.56, 300 blackout mainstays, but then there's this new kid on the block, 8.6 blackout. And then Hornady's like, well, we can do 300 blackout, but better, quote unquote, with our ICAR system with the 338 arc. And then we got SIG with the 277 Fury. We got FN with the 6.5 by 43. So you have 6 arc. It was kind of a one that's gained, I think, a couple contracts at least for certain things. But what are your guys' thoughts on all these new whiz bang gizmo cartridges that are out and about?
I think on the commercial side, that's great. People can put some time into really working these cartridges. The one that really impresses me is the 6mm GT. There's been a lot of really good data research that's been put into it on the government side that it crushes the arc. So
Really?
Yeah, and it's called the GT. And I'm not.
I know it's a PRS round. I've never seen, it's not a commercial round, but I know it's it's like a Wildcat that people make.
But it's some incredible accuracy as far as like the 338 arc. I know that Noveski put one out this year. I saw that. The 8.6 we played with, and I worked with Gorilla on it. We did suppressors for him, and we've got a couple guns built up. But the left-hand feed ramp with anything other than 300 grain is a problem on every semi-auto. So what they're doing is they're over-springing it to give enough power to basically rip it across the feed ramp, and then they're hand-fitting every feed ramp into the upper. So it's a really difficult one to work with on a like onesie twosie. The boom box is out, and that's running flawless. And I think they might have a mono port or a mono feed ramp that they did on that. And that seems to be a pretty impressive package. I don't know that I'll see any adoption of any of these on the governmental side, although there's rumors all the time on ARC and some others. But I know that 300 blackout using subsonic, like the 190 sub X, we've done a lot of testing with, and some of the government guns we've done on the PSW side have been in that for the 190. And when you shoot a 3A vest with that, we were out with a department maybe a month or two ago, and they had a gelatin like figurine, and they put a 3A vest on it, and they said, all right, we're going to pop it with the 8-inch 300 blackout that we brought. So okay, they shoot it, and we filmed it from the side with like how it moved, and then we went and saw where the bullet was. I was like, do you mind if I shoot this with my 45? He said, no. So we did the same thing, exact same penetration, exact same reaction to the dummy as it got hit. And it really kind of, I like for my farm rifle, I use an 8.5-inch barreled with 110 grain Hornady black. And that's what all of our nuisance animal stuff is that on a sonic basis. I like the round. It's great because it's a small frame, decent capacity, suppressed, and it's a round that you can actually put stuff down with. But in my experience with the subs, like hunting pigs and everything else, they really they don't do the deed unless you're getting like a cranial shot, and even then you're only at the power of a handgun. So I'm kind of disappointed in the 300. We offer it. There's departments that absolutely want to have it, but we've also at the same time taken a lot of 300s in trade, like MCXs. Departments have traded those in for our TPRs. That there's been maybe logistical things, disappointments, generational changes in the guns, but whatever reason, they don't seem to have holding power. And especially when it comes time for budgets, in the end of September when they're trying to buy ammo, and you're talking $2 a round versus 60 cents a round on some of their some of that. So a lot of departments will go to it for a short time and come off of it. It's a fun gun to demo because of course it's so quiet, and people really enjoy shooting a 300 blackout. But ballistically, I mean, I wouldn't want to try to catch it with a baseball glove, but it's not really doing the damage. And with the arc that thing has and the drop on it, ballistically, I'd much rather have like a 77 grain or a 64 grain power point and a 5.56 across the board rather than a subsonic. The 6mm arc, I saw that there's now magazines available for it, and that was its biggest stall factor on getting adopted anywhere officially, was no one had a mag that would reliably support it. So now Magpul's announced the mag. Also Thrill, I don't know if you're familiar with Thrill.
I don't think so, no.
They've got 2 mags for 338 mark and for 6mm that are steel 28 round mags.
Yep.
Yeah, that look very promising as well. They're going to be out here next month, actually. We're going to be doing some testing on those.
Nice. Are you guys planning on delving into 338 arc or 6mm arc?
Yeah, if we have reliable magazines, absolutely. And, we have requests on it, so, why not?
Now, everybody's trying to get more out of less, right? So we're getting crazy neck down cases. We're trying to put as much powder as you can in an AR-15 size frame. But with the new, I say like new as if steel cases aren't the norm for a lot, but with these hybrid cases that SIG's bringing out, or they're solid steel cases with the higher pressures, is that something that as a rifle manufacturer, you're like, oh, this is a terrible idea? Or is this something that's like, well, if we can make a barrel that can hold it, then cool.
Well, I don't know if you remember the original 6.8 SPC round, right?
I remember it died. It died before I started shooting.
Well, when it came out, it was basically there was a guy out of 5th Group and then a Remington engineer that said they're going to do it and design it, and kind of was an after hours project and got it going. And what it was going on is that you're thinning your bolt wall to accommodate that. Basically, it's like the old 7.62 by 39 bolts in an AR. So you're kind of creating a little bit of a safety issue there. But the other thing was it was driving chamber pressures. The M16 is designed to be doing between 50 and 55,000 pounds. What they were finding is that all the 6.8 ammo seemed to be going over 70,000, and then add desert heat to that and then chamber it and shoot it. You could be going over 80, and it became a really kind of a safety issue. And then you over-engineer rounds. We had the M855A1. When we did the individual carbine program, we submitted our IC. There was like 70 companies that tried to get this carbine program. We got to the first down select. There was 7 companies left. We were one of them. And then they killed the program. And they said, well, it really doesn't do that much more than a normal M4, so we're going to end it. But what really was going on is the 855A1 was killing the guns. It was breaking bolts. It was wiping barrels out way too soon on everybody's. And it was because they were trying to do exactly what you said, get a maximum performance out of as small of a cartridge and keeping it in a small frame. The 855A1 round is really good at killing people, but it's really good at killing suppressors because it plates the inside of the suppressor while, every shot you've got copper wash going and building weight in a can, runs barrels down a lot faster, stresses bolts. So you now are left with, we want the round, but we're left with the engineering blueprint and tactical data package that Stoner left us with, your bolt wall thicknesses being what they are, your chamber and your envelope to put all this stuff in is what it is, and you're exceeding. So then we see we jump into this 277 Fury. And now we have a 277 Fury where the gun is very heavy. It's not accurate. It has a lower capacity. It has a high recoil. The suppressors don't really suppress sound that well. And it's really kind of not something that anybody enjoys shooting. We were next to them at CanCon, and it was brutal. And they were all suppressed, but they were just so loud. It was unbelievable. So what I see happening there is that, they announced this high pressure ammunition, which, by the way, they don't issue. So all the ballistic data and everything they did to get this gun adopted by the Army, when the 101st roll it out, they don't have any high pressure ammo. So that data is kind of moot. So what are you doing differently at this point than a 7.62? The high pressure ammo that's out there, I know there's companies out there that are getting it to run in miniguns and things like that. They're having a lot of failures on the ammunition. So the sourcing isn't as good as it should be. So that program has issues. There's a lot of documents that you can get online where I've gained all this information. None of this is classified. None of this is insider trading. There was a infantry, I think, first lieutenant that wrote a very in-depth review of this. And everyone I've talked to endorses what that guy wrote.
We've covered that article before on the show. Yes, we've gone through some of the issues with the M7.
Yeah, and nothing's changed. And of course, certain companies just ignore customer, or end user stuff and insist that they don't understand. Okay, well, I see that gun probably would be best served to be rechambered in 308. It can be done because it's a modular system. They could redo it in 308. Maybe some rounds could be made into, I know there's an M80A1 round, which is the higher pressure, like the
Right.
855A1. That would be a good interim measure, but really the M4 has served us very well. It's the best battle implement on the battlefield worldwide. It's maintainable. It's in service. It's in, basically all of NATO has it. And a lot of units are really shying away from going away from it. People aren't recoil sensitive with an M4. It's got really good accuracy. That report that we were just talking about, they're saying 3 to 4 MOA out of a 13-inch barrel. So you're not really achieving what the end goal of that whole program was. But
Right.
what I've learned over 23 years doing this is that colonels don't become generals spending new money on old stuff. How they do it is they develop a program of record. They get something going, they get the program in, and then they end up working for that company afterwards. So I don't know if that was the case in this, but in the past, that has certainly happened.
There
And
have
I've seen
been
it-
some allegations with SIG and
Yeah.
acquiring contracts. Allegedly,
Well, we had
allegedly.
just in the Massachusetts State Police, we had gone to SIG, I think, 3 times, and I think either 2 or all 3 times the armorers retired and then went to work for SIG. So that's that's just sometimes that's what happens. But what the end result is we want to have our troops have the best lethality at any distance that's common to an infantryman. And I think that this is not the solution. And I think that's well documented that the end user results and the people that we see here at the factory as well that are coming from base, all kind of say the same thing about it. And that's it. That's all I got.
Well, so I wonder if it's, at least to me, it seems analogous to almost the M14 program, right? The shortest lived service rifle in U.S.
Yep.
military history so far. That is so far the
Right.
shortest one, where you're changing calibers for a fight that you're not fighting, right?
Yeah.
You're almost fighting a war behind. It's like, well, we need lethality at 800 plus yards, but your gun is heavier. We have reduced capacity, and it's not
Higher recoil.
higher recoil. It's not accurate. And it's 5 times the cost of a current
Yeah.
M4 or whatever it is.
But in
right?
the end, surprisingly, the M14 was still on the battlefield into the late 2010 to 15 or whatever. And we had a big part of that was when we had our SAS chassis. The M110s were slow to be fielded. The SCARs weren't really a thing yet in 308. They weren't on board, and we did like 3,000 chassis to outfit M14s to keep them standardized and in use as DMR rifles. So that was a program for us, and we breathed life into the gun.
Yeah, well, that kind of got a second
started in
chance
the industry,
as a
yeah.
DMR rather than a standard service
Not
rifle.
as a battle rifle. I mean,
No.
I love the M14. It was the first way I got into industry. My first rifle I bought when I was 16 with lawnmower money was an M1A.
Nice.
Still got it, but it's not a modern battle implement that could fit a 5'2" female and or male. It's not something that can be easily wielded, and it did have a short life. And you're right. I mean, hitting the beaches of Normandy are very different than Fibula or mout fighting, in urban terrain.
Right, or a jungle or whatever else it might be. Now, another thing that I'm in the modern context, in like let's say Ukraine is kind of like the most modern fight that's going on right now between ostensibly like near peer forces. You're
Yeah.
not really seeing a lot of, at least from the footage that I've been viewing, you're not seeing a lot of long range engagements. It's very urban. It's building to building. It's
Yep.
brutal in a lot of ways. It's grueling in a lot of ways, and
Yeah.
it's I feel like ammo capacity and having to lug something miles at a time is much more important than maybe taking a precision shot at 800 yards, which again
Right.
the rifle doesn't do that.
There's always going to be a DMR or a sniper assigned for doing stuff like that, but for the average infantryman, you're right. It's about being mobile and being able to move and be able to have sustainability on your feet. And carrying 15 mags of a 5.56 is probably the equivalent weight of carrying 7 mags of 308 in steel mags, right? So it makes a big difference.
Well, another one of the interesting systems that's kind of come out. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to take a look or see this, but this is the FN, their solution to this. So they're trying to get a a midway point between all of it. So it's a 6.5 by 43, but it's a completely new bolt barrel system to handle the enhanced pressures. I'm not sure if you guys have had a chance to take a look at that or had thoughts on
I think
something like this.
Beretta has something like this as well.
Yeah, the Praetorian or the NRP, I think they call it, the
I
new
don't
assault
remember the
rifle
name
platform.
of it, but
Yeah, we
I saw that,
actually
yeah.
they had the Beretta defense booth at
Mhm.
at SHOT Show, and we actually got to talk to one of the guys who helped develop it, one of their Italian SF guys. He
Yeah.
a very thick.
I saw
Italian
actually.
accent.
I caught an interview with him. I think it was one of yours. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I think we might be the only one that has an interview with that guy at SHOT. But
Yeah,
no,
I
it
saw
seems cool. You know, it's one of those platforms that it's going to be very expensive. Probably never going to come to the
And
U.S. market.
congratulations to Beretta, 500 years in business.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It's insane that they were around when Constantinople was Constantinople, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of like the questions I had set up to go. Now the audience has been sending in some questions. Do you guys mind sticking around and
Sure.
taking some of those? Now I will. While you're here, I'm only going to get to. I'm sorry, guys. I know you guys put in a lot of jokes and some silly things, but I'm just going to go to the questions that are actually pertinent to the discussion, and then I'll read off the other ones later. All right.
Sure.
Let's see. Now this is something that I'd seen pop up. Cody Fisher for $10 says State Trooper minus 10 points with love. Was there some sort of drama with leaving Massachusetts? Because
No.
I've seen somebody say like bribery, trying to get them to adopt a Troy rifle. Then you had to leave
No.
the state, or
There was drama where two of the armors of the state police got charged for untoward stuff, and I donated a bunch of stuff to the state police. So we donated about $30,000 worth of upper receiver upgrades for some old M16s. They bought some of our. We had a contract with the U.S. Park Police for 308 rifles, and they bought, I think, 25 rifles from us at the same price the U.S. Park Police paid. And then there was, I can't remember what else. We applied, actually, we won the contract on the rifles, and then somebody in headquarters killed it because it was us. There's this, when you're working in like a public sector job, and I hear this from other people that start businesses, there's a lot of animosity or not jealousy that's involved. And like for my career in the state police was flawless. I mean, I had letters of commendations, never had a use of force complaint, honorable discharge when I retired. I mean, everything was fine. This happened years later. And I had two friends that were armorers in the state police, and they used to do a lot of testing with us. Like when we came out with our internally suppressed 9mm, our PDWs, they'd invite us up to the range and we'd use the indoor range up there. This is after I retired. And these were two guys that I could actually have peer-to-peer conversations about. Very, very knowledgeable guys that I just don't have that resource around me in Massachusetts. And they gave us some really good design input. And then I'd given them rifles, but it had nothing related whatsoever to a contract at all. And I'd actually given out over 200 rifles up in Massachusetts, and all the guys that I work with. I mean, I was very lucky. I'm blessed that I had a company and I was doing great things. So, you know, the troopers I work with on shift, you know, I gave a lot of them rifles, and it was just the way that I showed love. You know, it was not in regards to getting a contract or anything like that. So,
Gotcha.
But what happened? Let me get back to what happened with the state police. So they had a whole bunch of stuff that is accumulated in the Army over years, like Thompson submachine guns, 10-gauge shotguns, like the one the Terminator had, the lever gun, line throwing guns, pistols, rifles, shotguns, you name it. They had all the old sniper rifles, Galils that were pre-sample. So they wanted to trade them for rifles. So I came in, did a whole spent a day out there, listed everything. I said, if the Thompsons transfer, they're worth $25,000 in credit. If not, they're worth $1,000. And I priced it all out and gave it to them. Well, they ended up not coming to me for the deal at all. They went to a gun shop in Greenfield, Massachusetts, and said, we want to give you this deal, but we want this, this, and this, and this for free. So this was state property. So boom, indictments. So they called me in as a witness because I had given them all this stuff, and they're like, where is it? And the guy's like, oh, well, that was something. And he had all these excuses, but the truth is they stole it. Like all the upper receivers I put on these M16s, all the upgrade parts, all the other stuff. Like when they had gotten issued when I got issued my patrol rifle. It had a Troy rail and sight on it. I had nothing to do with the firearms unit when I was in the state police. Just that's what they selected. It was an M&P 15X. But when Smith & Wesson bought those rails from us, they were our cheapo models that didn't have screws that actually locked them on. It was just an upper and lower handguard. So I said, I'll tell you what, just give me those back. And when you get the guns, I'm going to donate the real ones that actually bolt on and have QD swivels, free. I just did it. That's something that, these are my brother troopers. I took care of them. So yeah, as far as there's no bribery or anything. It's about the armorers actually using state property and getting personal gain. So I lost a ton of money because, if you want to look at it, what I donated, even when I was in the State Police Academy, we had M14 drill rifles and several of them had broken stocks and parts missing. I actually ordered the parts and had them shipped in so they could get the rifles back up and running. So that was just what I did. I enjoyed it.
And you were in the State Patrol until 2011?
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So, I mean, you were in there 20 plus years?
I did. I was a local cop first, and then I transferred. I had to go to the academy again, and then I finished my career in the state police. So it was 23 years total.
23 years, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice. Well, yeah.
Yep.
So it's simultaneously surprising and not surprising that government officials would steal,
Yeah, it's corruption. And like I told you before, in the armor section, it's always been rife with corruption where, especially what we had, I remember on the SIG pistols, and it was like, how come everybody's going there? And even we got the Smith & Wesson M&P 45, and that was what I thought was cleanly selected because the armorer liked it, the SWAT team liked it, and then the armorer said, well, everybody's going to get it. So then the SWAT team said, no, we want 1911s then. We don't want what everybody has. But it was an excellent weapon. It's still what I carry today. It's the M&P 45 was just a great weapon. And then, later down the road, actually, the armorer that went to work at Smith & Wesson wasn't the one that saw that gun in, but it was the previous armorer. So I'm sure something, he at least got an open door to come in and demonstrate it. But I was very happy with that selection of sidearm. As far as I was top gun in my academy class, both when I was a local cop and in the state police. And I can tell you, we had the 226 DAX in the state police, and our first round was 50 yards. I had to always aim 6 inches off to the right of the paper to get that round in on that 50 yards because the DAC trigger was just awful. But, with the M&Ps, it's just very similar to a Glock trigger. Great pull. So,
interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Rad's Arms for 2 says Troy flip-up sights are the OG of flip-up sights. Just saying something nice. People like your sights. Randy Reviews for 5 says, how would you say your rifles compare to BCM, Daniel Defense, Centurion, and Geisley?
I think ours are equal to Daniel Defense and BCM. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with Centurion. I think they make great stuff. I've seen some of their handguards. We sell a lot of handguards to Colt, and I know they do too. Geisley, they make some good stuff. I've seen some of their scope. We've had, I think, their scope mounts here. We used to use their triggers years ago. So they make good stuff as well. But
Okay.
I say we're on par. Like I said, I don't have hands-on the Centurion, but everything else we're right on par with.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now, Doomer John for 5 says, due to saying the right things, ask them why anyone listening should buy one of their A4 uppers over another manufacturer. And let's hear about the barrels too. Now, I was actually just looking on your website. Your upper receivers are actually surprisingly reasonably priced. Like even for a retail website, they're both sub $1,000, which for a major manufacturer is quite attractive. That means if you're buying an upper, you can slap it on your $200 lower, and you're about $1,200 into a nice rifle. So why don't you run them through the A4s?
So the A4, one, you're getting our sights, and I know the sights are sights. A lot of people are happy with like plastic sights or what have you, but our sights are machined like on these machines behind me. They're all billet machined out of stock. They're not molded cast or investment casting. They're known for their reliability. We designed them to be fail-proof, and they're in service with a lot of places around the world, and they trust them. So that's a big additive on there. The handguard, you can actually fit your hand around that handguard. It's super lightweight. We designed that to be a very performance but lightweight handguard. The receiver, the mil-spec receiver, mil-spec bolt assembly, caliber mark dust cover. What I'd say is that if you want a reliable upper that you can depend on, great for you. If you like Troy, great. If you like Daniels, go for a Daniels. Whatever really floats your boat. I mean,
That has
people-
our Numa in it also.
what's that?
That has our Numa charging handle.
Yeah, and also the new charging handle too. Like a gas diversion charging handle is certainly a handy thing to have for any can that you might put on a gun or just in general use. It's a nice large handle to be able to get a hold of.
Now yours are 14.5 mids, or do we have multiple barrel length options for these?
I think
we
that
have-
one's a 16-inch.
Okay.
I think. That's,
Yeah, that looks like a 16. We have 14.5 pin and welds. We have 11.5s, 10.5s. And we have, I think, blackout uppers. Are they on? Yeah.
Okay. And so what barrels do you guys make the barrels in house, or is
No,
there
so the machines that are right behind me and over my shoulder, we've done barrels on. It's really hard on them. So we have our prints. We went out to 23 different companies in industry. We had 5 that passed our quality on
apologies,
5.56.
my cable came out for a second there.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
So we sent out to about 23 companies our barrel prints, got samples in from I think 17, 5 passed our quality. We're an ISO 9001 company. Our
Mhm.
quality standards are audited, measured, and we're very, very tight on it. And we decided that we would source our barrels to these 5 companies, but 3 of them do 5.56 barrels, 2 of them do our 308 barrels. Just everybody's got something that they're really good at. We use on the 5.56, it's chrome vanadium and salt bath. They're fantastic barrels. We've actually, the Swiss Training Academy just got in touch with us. They're over 25,000 rounds on, I think, 6 rifles each, and the barrels are still grouping. And that's, I know in the beginning you mentioned like specialized barrel steels and everything. I mean, I can gold plate my toothbrush handle. It doesn't clean my teeth any better. And there's other components behind a barrel that are going to wear and, over time. But to get over 20,000 rounds in a barrel, I think you're pretty much on the spot with it. Our Mark 18 or our Mark 11 sniper rifle systems that we do, both commercially and government, we use stainless steel barrels on those. Match stainless 18-inch is what's standard. Then we have a vehicle interdiction gun that's a 12.5-inch barrel. But yeah, we're proud of our barrels. I mean, it's really hard to screw up accuracy on an AR-15. If you're free floating a barrel, and if you're not hitting MOA or better, there's probably something wrong with your gun and how the receivers are machined or who knows.
Something.
But yeah.
Now they're kind of standard in that way. So it's nitride 1 in 7 twist.
Yep. 7 twist on them. The Steel Factory M4 barrel nut is underneath that handguard that we talked about earlier.
Now, when it comes to 300 blackout, have you guys seen like the 1 in 3 and the 1 in 5 like super fast twist rate barrels?
We do 1 in 5. We haven't played with the 1 in 3s, but
Okay,
I mean,
okay.
a lot of people are like building something and they're really fine tuning it down to their round. A lot of times we'll, like with our customers, when we're building 300s, we want to know exactly what your ammo use that you're using. And that really is going to kind of lay out some of that spec for them on twist and barrel length. Like the 190 sub X really doesn't like anything under an 8-inch. We were able to make it run at 5-inch for a government agency and are internally suppressed, but that required, it was almost like custom build each gun. And that's not something we want, something that's reproducible without having to do all. We want manufactured components that we're going through quality and going together. And then also on the quality side, with that ISO, our policy is we have 10% inspection and that actually goes to quality. So 1 out of every 10 parts, every first part of every shift of every job goes to quality. And then the operators on these machines are checking every part with the list of things that they're responsible for. But we get full quality checks on 10% of everything we make. Those quality gates are unheard of in industry. And moving forward, as you talk to other gun companies, just curiosity, ask them, what's your quality gate on parts that you make? How many parts go through a full quality inspection? And it'll kind of give you something to measure that against.
Well, yeah, and that's something that's really overlooked because you'll have the moniker of something like learning machining together from a company like LMT that makes.
I've not heard that before.
Okay, that's a moniker online for them because they make some really good stuff. But like, I got a barrel from them and gas block combo with the gas tube installed upside down.
No.
And it's like this thing isn't running. What's going on? It's like obviously nobody test fired it, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, they have a tendency to just miss some things, right? Which holds back companies that could be really good, like could be top tier, But if
Yeah.
your quality control isn't there, then how can I trust your product, right?
That's the other you asked about the upper earlier. Even our uppers are test fired. So we have our test fire is right out back behind the factory. So all uppers, all weapons get fired. A lot of the military guns have different requirements for how many rounds they have to go through. Law enforcement guns have so many rounds they go through. We normally will mount optics here and then bring them to the range. And it's better than just making noise and seeing the gun run to actually do something and get them sighted in.
Okay, really? Okay. That's good
So
to hear.
everything,
Yeah.
headspace and test fire is standard across the board. And yeah, I know one year we did like 15,000 uppers separate from guns. And that was, I know another year, like just with the Colombians, we actually had a conveyor belt system on rollers because we had doing like 8,700 uppers that we had to
Oh my
get through.
gosh.
It was, yeah. So everything gets test fired.
Gotcha. All right. Cody Fisher for 5 says, what is your 5-ish year plan for production? Are you seeking to work in higher volume, larger contracts, or smaller ones with higher quality QC, etc.?
We want to maintain our QC where it is. We are actually in a growth mode right now because we are taking on more work. What traditionally has been 4 10-hour days here is moving. I think next week we're going to be going back into 5s and then 2 shifts on the 5-day cycle and then having overtime available for weekends. We want to see what our actual production rates are at that because by adding a shift, you're not exactly adding the efficiency of 2 times of what you would do on a day shift. There are some other factors that factor in, but by not shutting down on machinery and then restarting, you are gaining some time on your production and parts output per hour. But also when you start running like midnight shifts on overtime and things like that, naturally things slow down a little bit.
Right.
And then
Especially
with the quality gates are not compromisable. So we have to see where it shakes out and then we'll adjust from there. But right now I know that we're looking and hiring on critical positions that are going to help us with this, going back up to full steam again.
Gotcha. Very cool. Aaron has a question. Who wrote the Odyssey, Steve?
Homer. It wasn't
Very
Steve.
nice.
It was Homer.
Yeah.
The great storyteller. You should read, who's the other one? Herodotus. Like if you really want like history, read Herodotus. I spent a lot of time over in the Greeks and Turkish areas and visiting like ancient ruins. And I always found it cool to grab Herodotus and read what happened there, what battles happened there. That's where you get all the details of the 300 came from him.
Mm-hmm. Zanico for 5. I think he's referencing the T1s. He says, is that clear anodized? If not, make them in clear ano.
That is a anodized, but it is they do put a color match in it to try to level out because again, the handguard is 60-61. The charging handle upper lower is 70-75. So that's why we try to get them to kind of match that up a little bit. But I know like Bill has like his desert dirt color and puts a disclaimer on it, but it is true. It's depending on like where, like if your receivers were forged in different locations or different lots, sometimes things change in how they anodize accept. Right. And we did do a clear anodize as well. When we came here, we did gateway gray because Clarksville, Tennessee is the gateway to the south. So that was kind of our intro down here. And we did some really special guns in that, but I'd be interested in hearing from your team or from your viewers. What other colors are they interested in? We did a Soxy Brown years ago. We're thinking of bringing back, which is kind of the same handguard that Marty has on his Riz 2 and Riz handguard. We did whole rifles in that years ago, and we're thinking of bringing that one back.
I mean, I know personally from my audience, clear anodized with the not color matched, right? Because they can't color match. I know that people like that. That's a cool look. Personally, FDE, DDC, stuff like that is always a seller. It's just something different, right? Because some people don't like black. I think black is the best because I rattle can most of my stuff. Yeah. Right. So for me, it's like I just take it in black because it's cheaper. Usually it's a couple $100 cheaper.
What did you just say?
Usually I take it in black so that I can rattle can it. Or are you being funny? Cody for 10 says, as the owner, when you sign a contract with a foreign entity and government, is it mandatory for you to have for them to have the similar or same morals as you? Or do you view business as separate from morality aspects? That's an interesting question.
Yeah, there's a thing called the FCPA. That's a very good question. So Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. And what all of our partners that we have on the ground are vetted through the State Department and through others. And we have what's called the Gold Key program. So we are making sure that anybody that we're doing business on the ground, because we can't have representatives everywhere in the world. We're in almost 40 countries and we don't know the ground game. We don't know who the players are. So we rely heavily on the U.S. government to be able to put these people forward that we find and have them vetted, or we ask them to find us partners on the ground. And that's been very successful. And then those partners have an agreement that they sign with us that says that they will hold to the standards of the FCPA. We've walked away from deals. Like I've never done any business in Mexico because it's just too corrupt. Like even that we're dealing with tier 1 units that are down there, but it just gives, I have the hair standing on the back of my neck as I just talk to them and talk to partners. It's too loose, not enough controls in place. So we've avoided doing business there. Never, ever have we sold anything into Mexico because we don't feel that it's safe. But Colombia, we did the Colombian National Police. That was huge work for us over the years, and very, very clean operation, really good partners.
Very nice. And that's something that people are always on edge about too in the 2A community. It's like if you sell to, let's just say, a California police department where they're legal for police officers but not for the civilians, right? And people tend to not look favorably on that.
Yeah, it's with California, like the police officers can't have it either. It's
whatever states have, like they have LE exemptions, right, for certain things.
That really sucks, and that it's funny you mentioned that because Massachusetts, where I'm a retired state trooper, credentialed, qualified, I'm under HR 218, get my insurance, health insurance through the state police. I couldn't go up there carrying a Glock 19. Not a Glock 19 with a 10-round mag. No Glock 19, because I wasn't able to register prior to whatever this last stupid ban was that they had, and so I'm no longer able to possess any rifles or anything up there at all. If I go visit my kids up there and they want to go shoot, I can't bring anything up there. I mean, of course, under my FFL, I probably could, but I'm not going to. So we actually just because of that, we let our state contract expire in Massachusetts. So we don't have a state contract to sell law enforcement up there anymore. So
gotcha. Okay.
But they were harsh on our move because what triggered our move is we got a very, very large deal for the Iraqi Kurds for their internal security force weapons. And it was over 52,000 guns. So all the paperwork was in the State Department, all the licensing, first article inspections were complete. They came over here, had everything we needed. State Department came up with the One Iraq policy, and they said, you need to have a letter signed by the Iraqi MOD saying they're aware of this. So we sent somebody over there, went to the MOD desk in Iraq, and they asked for a $500,000 cash bribe. So we're like, nope. Came back, went back to State Department. I said, we want an override. So you got to contact a congressman or a senator to get that, or to get anywhere with it. So we start calling. 18 federal senators or congressmen that were in the districts surrounding Massachusetts, because we had vendors everywhere. And then all of our state reps also, even our governor's office in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and I can't remember what other state. And it was like 6 weeks later, we still hadn't gotten a single return call from any of the political critters up there. None. Wouldn't call us back. I got to a staffer for Richie Neal, who was the congressman. And I finally told him, I said, when's Richie going to call me? I mean, how many other companies are getting $100 million deals in Western Massachusetts? He's like, oh, he got all indignant over it. And I was like, we've been trying to get a hold of him for 6 weeks. And we got 100 jobs on the line here, and they would not do anything. And it's COVID, right? So I call a buddy of mine overseas, and I said, hey, I know you've done training with these guys. How does everybody get in these letters? He says, they're probably paying a bribe. And I was like, well, that's not happening. He says, call Mark Green. I didn't know who Mark Green was. He ends up being the federal congressman for the 7th District of Tennessee. Within 15 minutes, I'm on the phone with Mark Green. He invites me and my wife to come to Tennessee. We get here. It was like 2 weeks later, we came down. He had 30 people in the room to meet us, builders, bankers, insurance agents, both mayors, county and city, the TVA, which is the federal power company, basically, the state, the Economic Development Commission, himself, everybody, to meet us. And like, wow. And then that night he had us over his house and cooked us steaks, like opposite world down here.
Wow.
So I kind of left. And then as we moved, like we told him, like, hey, we're showing you the knife. we're out of here because you're now trying to pass a law that's banning the manufacture of the rifles we make and magazines, which, by the way, we do a big government business too. We're out of here. We leave, and then all of a sudden, they start coming out. How could Troy do this in the middle of COVID and everything else? Like, I've had enough. I'm done. I've had enough
Well,
in Massachusetts.
I mean, as somebody who I used to work in Washington State until they basically did the same thing 2021 timeframe when they passed a AWB, which basically shut down my business. No, I
Right.
mean, I'm very sympathetic to that. So now I live out in South Dakota where there's no business tax, which is quite
Right.
nice.
Yeah,
But no,
not
it
having
sounds like
tax
they wanted
on
a
your-
chunk of that $100 million contract right there. You know, it
Yeah.
sounds like they actually wanted some tax revenue, which is kind of like their job, you would think.
You would
I think they
think,
would care about
but
that.
no. And then, of course, I offered all of my employees relocation to come down here. Didn't cut wages at all. I think we had 5 that came out of everybody. I was hoping to get like 20%, and everybody's got kind of, it's family, it's personal, it's nothing to do with business. There's no business reason to be in Massachusetts or Connecticut or New York because I don't have a retail facing business. I'm an international business. I can be anywhere. And then Tennessee just made so much sense. And I had about a dozen Troy employees from Massachusetts come down here and train their replacements, knowing they were going home with a pink slip. Just they want to see us succeed. I had a great workforce up there. We're a great team, a lot of long tenured employees. So it's too bad. It's just, there are a lot of reasons we had to leave. I mean, legislatively, they were
Right.
trying to ban what we did, but also we had no support. And that deal with the Kurds went into Never Never Land.
Well,
And
so did you end up not getting that?
no, I couldn't get any action on it in time. It went to Neverland. And luckily we got this other one. And that's what Mark had told me. So you come down here, this will never happen again. And sure enough, this first export on these rifles for the soft contract took over 8 months. They were sitting on, we had guns built on the loading dock for 8 months. So we got invited down. Marsha Blackburn had us down in DC. We had breakfast with her, had lunch with Senator Haggerty, and they saw it through for us. And it was, no donations, no nothing. They just said, you're a Tennessee business. We want to see you succeed. If you need anything else, let us know. Great staff, great people all the way around.
Oh, there you go. Heck yeah.
Yep.
Bloodbase comes in for 10 and he says the SOC Battle Rail, or the SOC, is just as heckin' good as the CAC URX, and I'm tired of pretending like it's not.
Mm.
Yeah, the CAC URX rails, that's always a strange one to me because you have to use that silly tool to get inside the handguard and take the gas block off, and then you got to spin and time your handguard / barrel nut. It's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, CAC, they've made some fantastic product, and they've been there for all of GWAT, and that's kind of how they got their start with the Razrail and stuff. But it's not really user friendly for installations, for sure.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. You like finding their tools is the hard part, right? Because they don't even sell
made it.
like their.
I've got a bunch. I have a few SR25s and an M110, and I actually wanted to get them painted, so I had to pull one apart. So we actually just grabbed some Dom tubing and then cut it and then made one.
Mm-hmm. Strategy Branch for 10 says, if I ever buy another DI rifle, it will be that Troy SBR. How cool.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
Some Subarctic Psycho for 5 says, Troy has the balls to come on this stream, but the Sons of Liberty Gunworks guy doesn't. Respect.
What's up with that?
Well, I had an interview scheduled with Mike Michalski for a number of weeks, and we were texting back and forth, and then eventually he just kind of ghosted me.
Oh,
So
sorry to hear that. He's been busy, it looks like.
I'm sure he has. Yes,
But no busier than we have.
Well, I really like when people like you reached out to me and were like, "Oh yeah, we'll come on your show. We'll do it." Right. With a lot of people, I feel it's the opposite, and I have to pull teeth sometimes to coax them. But you guys were very very into it, so I appreciate it.
Well, I look forward to seeing them that interview, hopefully in his factory.
Yeah, that'd be cool too. Let me see. Poop Dynamics for 2 says, bring back all the free floats of the mid 2000s. Actually, I have a image somewhere around here of your early catalog that somebody sent me. Where is this one right here? Here it is. So this is like
wow,
early
that's the
days. Yeah,
man, that's the original.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? I haven't seen
This-
that in 20 years.
This well, so I had a gentleman in the Discord who was not happy with you.
Oh no.
Because of bad customer service he got in like 2005.
Oh,
I think that was his claim. Right.
Wow.
And I know the guy. I like the guy. So I can't speak to what happened 20 years ago, but he had this image floating around because I think he bought a couple products from you
Yeah.
and then had customer service issues. Again, this is like 20 years ago at this point. But yeah, that's he sent me this image of your old catalog. So
Yeah.
yeah,
If
it's
you
cool
if
stuff.
you don't mind, please send that to us. We'll put it up on the wall. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So that was the company when I was full-time trooper and not really awake at work and relied on other people to do everything.
That sounds like fun. All right. Slim for 5 says these guys are top notch. Troy customer from now on. Thanks for coming on, fellows, and having the show, John. Well, thank you, Slim. Let's see. Stratagem Branch for 10 says overpressured super chats. LFG. That's right. Overpressured rounds, overpressured super chats. Let me see. I think I read your Josh. All right. Amrite Boy for 5 says you use the SR25 patterns for your large frame rifles. Are the uppers compatible with other manufacturers, and do you offer the stripped receivers?
Yeah. So when we originally went for the CSAS contract and CanSoft's version of it, the threshold requirement of the contract was it had to be 100% interchangeable with the M110. The gun that won, nothing interchanges, not the magazine or the magazine release button, which is weird, but we're not a big enough company to play games at that level. But what we were left with was the complete print package for a Mark 11. So our guns are 100% interchangeable with the Knights Armament SR25 series, Mark 11s. Also the Armalite guns also use the same pattern receivers as well, but they are the SR25 slant cut pattern. We do occasionally run extra receivers and might have them around, but it's not something we've cataloged in the past.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are some people that their business is like they don't have extra parts laying around, right?
Well,
And
we've
that's
done
not the way that they're
we've
set up.
done small OEM work for like I think Guns and Things was one and a couple others, and then we make receiver sets for other gun companies as well.
Mhm.
308.
I know if people usually reach out to us on our email or something, we'll try to go dig around in the back and see
Yeah.
if we got stuff laying around. We do try to take
Yeah.
care of you guys when you reach out.
If you reach out
That's
to
always
Corey, you know he's good at finding stuff. And once in a while, we'll find, like, we'll kick over boxes. When we moved here, it was 35 tractor trailers and 5 flatbeds of machinery and stuff. And in a huge factory, we just put stuff where it fit. Here we were able to organize it. So a lot of cases of stuff came off and had to go right into storage because they're not relevant to what we're making now. But we've been opening these boxes and finding like
G33 rails.
Yeah, G33 rails or carbon fiber handguards for like the SR25s and 416s and like really cool stuff. And when we find it, we're going to start doing the limited drops based on what we find. But I know people are really hot on the GWAT stuff now, and we're trying to dig that out first, of course, and get that out.
Yep. Over on Ko-Fi, Paps says for 10, I saw a Troyed out rifle come through my homie's shop. Looked like it came out of a Blackwater arms room from 2007.
There was
So
a
I
lot of
think
them in that room back then. Yes.
Fresh Pinochet over on Ko-Fi for $25, which is insanely generous. Thank you, Pinochet. Great helicopter rides, by the way, if you guys aren't familiar with Pinochet. Great helicopter rides.
Nice.
Do you guys know who Pinochet was? He was technically a dictator in South America.
He was throwing people out of helicopters?
Yeah, he was throwing
okay.
communists.
Yep.
He's famous for giving communist helicopter rides, but they were one way, unfortunately. So he says, favorite rifle that is not an AR. So non-AR favorite rifle.
Boy. Got a lot of them. Not an AR.
Big fan of the 240 for me.
It's not a rifle, right? It's a machine gun.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've got 240s here. I
It's
love
America.
those, but no, it's not that's one. I really enjoy shooting a Steyr-AUG. My son and I have a bunch of Steyr-AUGs. Okay. And they absolutely are atrocious suppressed, by the way. If you get a Steyr-AUG and think you're going to suppress it, think again. It doesn't work. But those are fun for us. man, that's
Well, you're gonna make a couple we call them autists, not autists, but we call them autists in the chat that are absolutely bullpup fanatics, and they will be very happy to hear that answer. So yeah. Another question says, favorite suppressor firearm combo.
MP5 SD.
Okay, fair enough. Greg,
Oh,
you're on the spot now.
Did I steal
I
steal
know.
your spot?
Can I just steal his?
Yeah, you
I-
can. That's fine. Fair
Yeah,
enough.
you
Fine.
let me-
Fine.
He
Whatever.
let me shoot his, and I fell in love with it, and now I'm scraping up the pennies.
Yeah, there you go. Now, what is your favorite Troy product? Favorite product you've ever made at Troy?
I would say the 11.5 T1, which is
Okay, fair enough.
I hope we can actually get you in here and you can shoot with us, but it definitely it's the pinnacle of what we've done here.
Sure. Subarctic Psycho over on Ko-Fi says, this is kind of a joke. So, Mr. Troy should release an upper called the "We Didn't Hire Lon Harichi or the Other Guy. Stop saying we did. That never happened." To win back the community, charge $2,400 for it. That's actually funny. A little too long. The title is not quite as catchy as it should be, but very funny.
As
And
the
then-
website guy, that'd probably hurt my fingers to type out.
Yeah. Great. Paulie B over on Ko-Fi says, great interview. Steve is a bottomless well of knowledge, technical, industrial, and BS drama and politics intrinsic to the trade. So thank you, Paulie. Appreciate that. And I think there was a couple more over here that I want to get to really fast to make sure that I don't miss out on anyone. Now, this is, it's a little political, but people actually famously, this is what started the Sons of Liberty Gun Works interview process with us. But it's does Troy welcome trans to buy their products? And this is a reference to a offhand comment that Mike Mahowski made on a interview. So this might be a little spicy. If it's too spicy for you to answer,
I have to tell you that one of my best friends in life, I served in the military with him. We deployed together, became trans. And this person, when I got activated for 9/11, I had to leave my family behind of babies of 3 months old, twins, and my wife. My house that we were building together wasn't finished. And I wasn't getting return. I wasn't returning anyone's phone calls. So he at the time called my wife and said, "Hey," and we'd already deployed together. And he's like, "I can't get a hold of Steve. What's going on?" He says, "Yeah, he got activated." Yeah, we all did. And he's trying to get the house ready because our lease is up on October 1st. He's deploying October 1st. So without anything else, he gets on a plane, not even telling anybody, flies up, rents a car, and meanwhile he's going away too, and he's got 5 kids, and he's gone for 2 years at that point. When he gets activated, he comes up, and he and I worked night and day, laying flooring, doing sheetrock, just doing as much as we can to get that house ready. And then I had a bunch of brothers from the state police that came in on off shifts to help doing siding, roofing, but he came up there for 10 days of leave. That he was active duty even before the 9/11. 10 days of leave away from his family to help me and my family to be able to have a place to live. And later in life, he decided that she was how she was born and wanted to transition. And I fully support. I know this person's heart and soul. And, back in the day, she would have given her life for me in combat, and I would have done the same. And to this day, it's the same. That connection is still there. And it doesn't matter how she identifies or wherever. I just want her to be happy in life, and I want anybody to be happy in life. And anyone who wants to own one of our firearms and use it responsibly, I support. So
understandable.
Yeah,
I really appreciate that, Steve. Greg, is there anything else you guys want to say? Sign off. I really appreciate your guys' time. It's been a great 2 hours, and
how many viewers do you have right now?
460 right now, sir.
So all 460 of you, I really appreciate you giving me the time that you're taking away from an evening with your family to kind of hear this. I know that he had seeded it out that we were going to talk about like the Ruby Ridge thing and everything else, but that was in the beginning. For 460 of you to stay on and to learn what Troy is today, I'm really appreciative of that, and thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Well, you guys have a wonderful night, and I appreciate your time, and I'm sure we'll talk after this. So have a good night, gents. Appreciate it. Greg, Steve, thank you much.
Yeah.
All right, gents. That was really nice of them to come and give 2 hours of their time to answer all of the questions, go over a lot of old stuff, you know. And I'll get to everything else now. Okay, I'm not gonna leave you guys hanging. I'm gonna go through the rest. Some of the super chats were not quite apropos for the topic as usual. I expect it, but thank you to everybody for hanging out, sticking it out. We're just gonna go through the rest of the stuff. I know that it would actually be really bad timing because today there was, or not today. Was it yesterday? Yesterday there was the other shooting, mass shooting in Canada involving a transgender individual, which was awkward timing for the end part of that conversation there. But he answered the question, so that is the way it goes. All right. Amorite Boy for 5 says, can't make the start of the stream later and gayer than trying to bribe state cops with rifles and getting caught doing it. Cough, Troy, cough. Well, that's, I mean, again, if you don't like Troy's explanation of it, Steve went through basically the whole story there and involved. So fast forward to that section, I think it was about the hour 40-ish mark, where we started to talk about the state trooper, Massachusetts, and what happened there. So Focus Stream Gooner 1488 for 2 says, I can't wait for the stream today. It's been too long. All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Stein. Lightsport for 2 says, Mr. Troy, Gold Chip or Daiwa Scarlet? Again, I believe those are in references to horse anime girls. No, I'm not gonna. See, that's the thing. I gotta curate the chats. All right, when I have guests on, guys, I'm not gonna, like, Lucas Botkin hung out for 3 hours on stream to all sorts of nonsense super chats, and I gotta not do that. I gotta, like, let people go and, like, only get to the important questions, because we only ended up getting to a few of the actual questions for Lucas, and instead we spent a lot of time on just straight up nonsense. So, but Lucas hung out for 3 hours answering everything. Tarke for 5 says, hammer down is in effect. If you can hear this, you are in a high value hardened structure. Yeah. Thank you, Tarke. Appreciate that. Chud for 2 says, hello, Stephen Troy. What is your opinions on Israel? Well, again, you know, I guess I could have, I asked him what his opinions were on trans. So, I think Israel is less spicy than that, maybe, especially for this chat. Thank you, Chud. Lightspore for 2 says, wow, Steve Troy is tubby AF. Not very nice of you, Lightspore. Lightspore again says, Mr. Troy, what's your mile run time or mile walk? Man. Lightspore not having it. He's a fitness hawk. Crazy. 94 Todd for 5 says, Melanite. I hear that makes people loud and violent. Yeah. Who's that? It's funny. It does make them black, actually, too, when it comes to melanating a barrel. Whipped Cream over on Ko-Fi for 3 says, Troy should make their version of a swan sleeve to scratch that GWAT itch. Thank you, Whipped Cream. Thank you, Todd. Strategy Branch for $20.
Shut the fuck up, man.
Says, we love Richard. We love Richard. We love Richard. Yeah, Richard is gonna have a little bit of time off just because of interviews coming up. Because Friday is another interview night. Who? Don't worry about it. Just let it happen, okay? There's another interview coming Friday night. Josh Howard for 2 months says, I like this guy. What does he think about Troon shooters? Well, I think his opinion on Troon shooters would be different than his one buddy, right? I think that's fair. Because, not the answer I was expecting, but I'm also not going to tell him that, oh, well, actually, your friend is like, actually, I think that's a little bit inappropriate. Chud for 2 says, the only 2 AR-15 calibers that matter are 5.56 and 5.56. I agree with you. You added a couple letters to the end there, though, and then you mixed up the letters there, the numbers there. So whatever, Chud. Focus Strips Y for 5 says, no one told me Focus had the BFG and a white Steve Harvey on. Hi guys, big fan. Shout out from the basement. Oh, thank you, Anna. Hope you're having a good night. Good night. Down there. Hope it's cold down there. Ton Dogs for 2 says, Steve, what do you think about the latest Jeffrey Epstein file drops? I'm sure he's not a fan. He's fine with disclosure, but I don't think he's a fan. Josh Hartford 2 says, you better read mine. It's important. Well, I read Axe to Grind because I know Axe to Grind that's his thing. So I had to bring that up. Subartic Cycle for 5 says, all right, fine. I'll buy something from Troy. Thank you, Subartic Cycle. Well, we'll see if you're still in the chat, Subartic, let me know if you still feel that way. Chud for 2 says, don't skip this, John. Steve, ERN or EFN? See, that's the thing. I'm not bringing that up to a real human, all right? It's funny in the chat. You guys can make fun of me for that, but not real people. Okay. JL Gonis for 2 says, great stream tonight. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Jordan, have a good night, man. Chud for 2 says, I'll be joining that interview on Friday. No, dude. Well, we'll see about that. We'll see. Friday might be a wild ride. You never know. Cody Fisher for 5 says, I respect the honesty. Truly, I do. It takes a lot to admit that, I imagine, even though I don't accept and rebuke any of it. I think you mean rebuke all of it. Yeah, it's like I understand that is your experience and that is the way that you feel about that. And I'm not going to take that away from you. But at the same time, I think there's a larger, context at play, right? A larger societal issue at play. So ERN. EFN. All right. Well, I think that's it, guys. We're going to get out of here. Thank you once again to Steve and Greg for putting it all together, for hanging out, for entertaining the chat and all of our silly little questions. But yeah, I mean, yeah, essentially. Yeah, the truth thing kind of ruined it. It's all right. It was a good ride. And he answered all the questions. We don't have to agree 100% on everything, just most things. All right. Pure ideological alignment is not a requirement. But yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful night tonight. We will be back on Friday with more content for you. And this is the shortest stream I've done in a minute. And I'm kind of happy with it. Have a good night, gents. Peace out. God bless. Godspeed.